So we're going to be answering this question before us, which says that we need to find the inverse function of the following and state the domain and range. So here it is right here. The first thing that we're going to do is just state what the domain and range of our function is. So the domain of the function is given to us. It's just 0 to infinity. What is the range of this function going to be? And to help us figure this out, it's very handy just to draw a quick sketch for ourselves. So we'll draw up some axes here. Now, it's quite clear that we're dealing with a square root graph because we've got the square root here and it's +2. So it just means it's shifted up 2 spaces. So it's going to look roughly something like this. And that should be the other way around. It should be 0, 2. Perfect. So that means my range is from 2 to infinity. Okay, the next thing that I want to do is figure out what the domain of the inverse function is and what the range of the inverse function is. Okay, so to do this, what we do is we simply swap these around, right? So this goes up here and that goes down there. So this is going to be 2 to infinity and this one's going to be 0 to infinity. So that's going to be very helpful later on when we're trying to determine something else. So let's just leave that for now and let's go on to figuring out what the inverse function is. So now we're going to find the equation of this inverse function. Remember, the first thing that you do is you let y be equal to your function. So that means y is going to be equal to the square root of x plus 2. Then the next thing that you do is you swap your x's and your y's. And now you're going to rearrange to make y the subject. To get rid of that square root, I'm going to square both sides. And I'm going to end up with this. Now this is where you have to be careful, because if I was to come and draw this right here on my graph, this is a parabola that's been shifted 2 to the right, right? So I'm over here. So I would have this and I would have this. Now it's quite clear that if I've reflected my red graph here, across y equals x, that I'm not going to have both of these branches. So how can we determine which of these branches has to go away? Well, if we look at our domain, do you see here, my domain is telling me from 2 to infinity is where this graph exists. So this is 2. So I'm going from 2 to infinity, which means this doesn't exist. It also makes sense because this looks like it's been reflected across the y-axis if this is my original function. So just be aware that your domain is very important when figuring out inverse functions. So let's now write down our full answer here. So I'm going to say it's this ... then I'm going to put my domain like this, all real numbers. And then I'm going to go this is equal to, and then I'm going to say x minus 2 squared. Again, let me stress the importance of writing down your domain in your answer. It's very important. So that is your answer. Perfect. Hopefully you found this helpful.